Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. I'm just going to be talking today about the Generals Handbook 2023, the first look, now that it's been released. Okay, well maybe not been released, but it's been leaking quite a bit, so I felt I would want to talk about it a little bit. So, what are the major changes? Well, to be perfectly honest, I think you already know what the major changes are because when this was previewed on Warhammer Community, they actually revealed quite a substantial bit of what is actually in the new season, more than I actually expected. Like, they pretty much revealed, like, more than 50% of the book, more or less, but I'll still go talk about this stuff. This, I'll just, like, you pretty much know all this stuff now, what a Galatian Champion is. Can't be hit, can't be targeted by shooting if it's within 1 inch of a friendly unit, allegedly. I'm going to get back to that. They can, if you go second, you get 2 heroic actions. There's 2 new heroic actions. Again, these were all previewed in the Warhammer community article, so go back and check those. Overall, I think these are all very good. Again, we'll have to see how things play out in the grand scheme of things. I do like the 2 heroic ability. If you're going second, better than the whole proving grounds from last season, like, because I felt like that was just a nothing burger in the grand scheme of things, especially when people just stopped bringing Galatian veterans at the end. So, but that's neither here nor there. So, battalions. Overall, I like these. They're not bad, but I do have some major concerns with auto-inclusion. As I mentioned many times in the past, I'm not a fan of things that are just the obvious take. Because whether it's an artifact or a spell or whatever, if something's just so obviously the better option, it just kind of makes it so, like, what was the point of all of these then? You have, like, 6 options, 6, 7 options, but like 1 or 2 are the obvious takes. And I know some people are saying, oh, well, casual play, that's what those are for. But sometimes even in casual play, it's not enough because, like if I'm taking something that just kind of feels like I'm downgrading, like it's sometimes hard even in casual games, but whatever. Anyway, just to explain again, most of this has pretty much all been, this was all spoiled in the community article. Nothing, you already know all this. Galatian Champions, it gives a unit the Swarm Protector ability for a Galatian champion. If he attacks in the combat phase, they can, if they're within 6 inches, they can attack immediately. Which, by the way, excuse me. Which, by the way, does technically stack with the 2 new heroic actions. So technically, you can attack in the hero and combat phase, one or the other. So that could be pretty potent. My issue with this is that this is a battalion that's becoming very essential for many different abilities, which again is kind of maybe trying to hint that this should be like an auto include. Again, I don't like that. And again, depending on the meta, we might not even see this that often, which would technically then render those new heroic actions not usable. So you see where I'm getting at? Like, if you want to use the heroic actions, you need the battalion. But if you don't bring the battalion, you don't get that. So that's like so many new rules you might just never see. Anyway. Galatian veterans, again, this was previewed. It just basically, it's just bringing back the half an inch of a model rule for when you're attacking. As a lot of people have already brought up, I do actually agree. I think that in the next edition of Age of Sigmar, this is just going to become a core rule because it just was so universally popular and just helped so many units that I just feel like they're just going to just not even just band-aid. They're not just going to just use this battalion as a band-aid. They're just going to just include it. But we'll see. We'll see in a year or two when they update the edition. In addition, actually, I do also think that the unit fighting after a hero thing will become a thing too. But again, I'll get to that another time. And the last one, the Galatian Sharpshooters. These, again, were mentioned in the video release. And you know what? He basically spoiled it because there is nothing hidden in the battalion that he didn't mention. It is what he said. It was you get 3 units get put in the battalion, and when they basically when they fire missile weapons, they ignore the 1-inch restriction for shooting at Galatian champions. So, remember that whole rule where like if a Galatian champion's within 1 inch of a friendly unit, they just can't be targeted? Well, guess what? This basically negates that. Now, it's not as bad as the bounty hunters rule from last season, because this, in my opinion, I don't feel is going to just break the concept. I just feel like from a rules writing perspective, it just feels like a cheat code. Like, you're basically including a battalion that counteracts an established rule that you're adding. You see what I'm getting at? It doesn't break it, because bounty hunters broke last season's concept. Like, it just made Galatian veterans a liability. This, I don't think it's going to make Galatian champions a liability, because they've already were always capable of being shot at. I just feel like this counteracts the patch. I don't know how I feel about this. This just kind of just screams auto include, but we'll see how the meta turns out. So, new realm, magic, and realm command. Again, these were previewed in the release. Like, again, you're getting where I'm coming from here. They spoiled a lot from the book here. Like, pretty much everything but the tactics, pretty much. It is how it was described. It's just a 12-inch spell that basically 12-inch spell, cast of 6. It just D6 mortal wounds to all enemy units within 6 of an objective. It's for objective campers. I think it's a pretty good spell, actually. Like I said, you will obviously you'll need wizards to cast it, but that's easy enough. Yeah, no, I got nothing really much else to say. I think it's solid. The new command, however, again, already previewed, so I'm not telling you stuff you don't already know. Just a non-hero, non-monster. If they're within 3 of an enemy, they get extra attacks, but they can't pile in. This, in my opinion, I feel like is what bounty hunters should have been. Like, because one, it's a command ability, so there's limits. But also, it's not as game-breakingly good as bounty hunters, because yes, it's +1 attack, but I'm a firm believer that +1 attack from command ability is not as good as just +1 wound, no questions asked. Like that, I'm going to say this a lot again. Bounty hunters basically destroyed the concept of last edition, because the whole idea was infantry less than 4 wounds. But what ended up happening, I feel, was that what we got was cavalry took over, because they could be bounty hunters, but they weren't susceptible to bounty hunters. So, like, we just got, like, it got towards the end there, like, people were actively looking for ways to not bring them. So I think they jumped the gun a little bit there, too. And on top of this is like 150% better than, actually, no, 300% better than the command ability from last season, which, to be perfectly honest, it got used so little, I actually forgot it even existed. I never saw anyone use it. It was just too gimmicky, and it just didn't do enough. This will definitely see use. So these two, thumbs up. New relics, Galatian Champions only. So one thing I feel like they're actually doing good with this new season, because again, last season with Galatian veterans, even with all their special rules, I just never felt it was enough to warrant like their inclusion, especially not with the liability they were creating. This with the Galatian champions, they're definitely getting a lot more stuff to make them better, in my opinion. So they basically get 3 new relics, and I'll just skim through them real quick. One gives a Galatian champion the Ogre Monarch charge, if you know what that is. You roll a dice for each inch of distance you charged when you rolled, and 4+ mortal wounds. Yeah, pretty solid. It'll depend on the hero though, because some heroes really shouldn't be charging. But anyway. Another one allows a Galatian champion to, instead of being deployed, to be set up in reserve and come in from reserve within 1 inch of a friendly unit and more than 9 of an enemy. This is pretty good too, because if you're someone who want to use them for like certain battle tactics, this can really be a good way to get them where they need to be. So that's good. And last artifact is just a 5-up ward. Okay. Again, I think I've made my peace with 5+ ward artifacts, because very quickly they often tend to just turn into like the auto include choice. So we'll see what happens. But if we're going to be living in a meta of sharpshooter battalions, this could very quickly become an auto include, like, because a 5+ ward is just good. So nothing much to say there. And aspects of champions. These are some unique enhancements available only to Galatian Champions. It's very similar to the banner system from Slaves to Darkness, you know. So you get one automatically, and you can get more if you have through ways of getting more enhancements. Overall, they're actually pretty good. They're similar, like they're not artifacts. They're just general good enhancements. So basically, one allows a Galatian champion. You can instead of moving, he can be removed from and put back anywhere on the battlefield, with redeployment restrictions, of course. Like, for example, it can't be 9 inches. It has to be 9 inches from the enemy, etc. Another one is a once per battle ability. Like so basically, if your Galatian champion is slain, you roll a 3+, and instead of dying, you negate all excess wounds taken to him, and he just heals D3. So it's basically a once per game 3+ do not die cheat code. That's good. Not sure how I feel about the 3+ though, because for people who roll a lot of 1s and 2s, you're basically just throwing this away. Next one is you count as 10 models on an objective if you're as long as there's not another Galatian champion. So just repeat, you count one Galatian champion will count as 10 models on an objective as long as there's not another Galatian champion on the objective as well. And if I recall, it has to be a friendly one. So this could have some. I think Ogre Ma tries to prove that counting as more models on objective is always a good thing. So, you know, that's something to consider. And the last one is once per battle, can issue the rally, all out attack, all out defense, or redeploy commands 3 times in one phase. Only spend 1 command point for all. That's pretty good in my opinion. If you remember, it's pretty much the same ability as the Iron Jaws Mega Boss ability, where he can just basically just spam the same command more than once. Basically, this is just giving this to everyone. And I think this is really good because, for example, I've been a firm believer that rally and redeploy should have always been able to be used on more than one unit. Like, redeploy can just be so janky that just putting it on one unit is I felt it was a little much for a single command point, but 3 units, this is better. So the last one, in my opinion, I don't know if it's going to be the most one used, but it's my favorite overall. So that's on that one. And tactics. I'm just going to skim through these, and I'm not going to talk about all of them because there's just too many, and between you and me, I don't think they're going to be used much. There's a lot of holdovers. Let's say, like you destroy an enemy unit and control more objectives. That's a tactic. If you lost a friendly unit last turn but killed an enemy unit this turn, you get this tactic. That's, it's doable. It's probably going to happen. Control an enemy terrain piece. That's easy enough. My other issue with the battle tactics, however, is that there's a lot that involves the new Galatian champions, and I'm not sure how many times that's going to be taken, because again, we might if we live in the meta of the sharpshooter battalion, I don't know how durable Galatian champions are going to be. So, like I said, if they're just as durable as they are now, I don't know how reliable you can keep them alive to get all these battle tactics that need them. So I'm just not sure how much they're going to be taken. But in my opinion, I don't think you're going to see a lot of those. So I don't even bother talking about them. And the grand strategies, again, same issue. Control all objectives not in your territory. I think that's a good one. Have no enemy units wholly within your territory into the game. Doable, especially if you're certain armies. Hint, hint, Sons of Bahamut, who just kill everything on sight. And last one, I think this is one I think is possible. Have more Galatian champions than your opponent. Depending on your army, I think that's actually doable, because if you just hide at least one Galatian champion and then just kill all of theirs, I think that's doable. But again, a lot of these Galatian champion grand strategies, the new ones we're getting, again, if we're living in a sharpshooter meta, people, like, you're basically just putting, like, making them essential for grand strategies and battle tactics. You're just putting another bullseye on their head than what they already had. So again, I don't know how much we'll actually end up seeing them. That's why. So I'm not even gonna. That's why I didn't bother mentioning them, because I honestly don't think we're even gonna see them that much. But maybe I'm wrong. So, as for the battle plans, yeah, there have definitely been some changes. Mostly the same in a lot of regards, like the Realmstone Cache, the Prize of Gilead, the battle lines drawn. They're mostly the same. However, there have been some changes for the most part. Well, for example, I'll give you an example. All references to Proving Ground have been changed, as there are no Proving Grounds anymore. Now, there are also some new ones. Ones I really like. For example, there's one called Only the Worthy, I think has a very interesting deployment outlay. Now, I'm actually not going to talk about these too much, because I like to leave some things to be a surprise. So, for when you get the book. Also, the thing is, with these kind of battle plans, I can go into like the minutia of tactics and deployment, and I'm just gonna be here forever. I could talk for hours on this topic alone, and I don't really want to do that right now. Plus, it's kind of hard to really gauge how good some of these plans are until you see enough people play battles on them, because you can only do math hammer in your head so much. Sometimes you just have to see actual data. So I'm not going to touch on these too much. So overall thoughts, big improvement over the last edition. I feel like they've really found a way to make Galatian Champions much more integral to the gameplay, but not in a way that'll just basically break the theme. Like, for example, like I said before, Galatian veterans, their theme got broken because they became too much of a liability. Bounty hunters wiped them too quickly, so making an army around Galatian champions was you got to the point where you were essentially handicapping yourself, because your opponent was just too potent against them. So towards the end of that season, what we just saw was just like mass monsters and cavalry. So this I'm not entirely sure how the meta is gonna behave, but I feel like we're definitely gonna see a better season overall than last season, because from what I'm generally seeing, people did not like last season that much, like at all. So hopefully this is the community takes to this one better. So anyway, thanks for stopping by, and have a nice day.